Why, yes, I'm looking snatched. That's what food poisoning does, but who doesn't love a skinny queen? Andre Cordova.
Yasmin Arkenstall.
I thought you were going to say something before that, but I guess not. We're just going straight to the name.
Straight to the name.
And welcome to Sabotage. Yasmin, welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Happy to finally have you here. I'm all right. I'm a little better now. As I kind of mentioned, past week of food poisoning, not fun.
Yeah, you poor thing. That's awful.
Which is why we're drinking water today.
Gotta get that H2O.
Yeah.
It's very important for living.
For living. Not that that's something we want to do.
Apparently good for the mental health as well. I hear.
Which is what we're discussing today, specifically OCD.
That's it. That's right.
Yeah. Resident expert and mental health advocate, Yasmin, here on OCD. So, what is OCD?
That's a wonderful question that I think a lot of people would benefit from knowing about, actually. So OCD is a debilitating anxiety disorder where you get lots of distressing thoughts that are called intrusive thoughts, and they keep invading over and over on a loop in your everyday life. And in order for them to go away or for the sufferer to prevent something bad from happening, we feel that we must do safety behaviours called compulsions or rituals. Right. And so that makes the OCD cycle continue, and sufferers can be in it all day, every day, if it's really bad. Yeah,
because I think that with obsessive compulsive disorder, the thing that people typically picture is safety actions of repeating certain things. And it's really good to have that insight as to what actually leads up to that. Because it's not simply just, I'm going to turn the light off and on like 1,000 times. It's
important to know, I guess, the intrusive thoughts and the urges, because a lot of people think it's like, I'm going to line up all, my pens and pencils because I'm so OCD. And that's definitely not the vibe.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't be OCD, because it has to be a disorder in order for it to be diagnosed as OCD. Like if you enjoy lining things up, that's not a disorder. That's a preference.
Exactly.
So
that's just a trait that you have.
There's
a word for it which I forget at the moment, but
like fastidious.
Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah. Anal retentive.
Anal. That's what that is. Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are kind of surprised when they learn more about what it actually is, and because there are so many misconceptions from the media as well, that it's about, just being like super clean and tidy and fastidious, when, obviously contamination, OCD is very much a theme that a lot of people suffer from, but it's driven by anxiety. It's not driven by, I just love being clean.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't get that kind of distinguishing feature, I suppose.
What have you got specifically? Because I know that yours extends into, say, for example, the reason why you wear gloves.
Oh no, that's a separate condition.
But
I'll explain that too.
Yeah.
So I've gone through so many themes of OCD that I can barely count, but it started when I was about 4.
Okay.
So I would get intrusive thoughts over and over that my parents were going to die in a car crash if I wasn't near them.
Oh wow.
And they took me to preschool, and I would just cry in the sandpit all day from the anxiety of being there.
Yeah.
And the guy at the preschool was like, he called my parents. He's like, I'm not so sure she should be here. Like, if it's the best thing for her, because she's
Struggling.
A mess right now. Like, girl's a hot mess. This poor 4-year-old girl.
Yeah.
And so my parents put me into dancing and singing when I was about 4 or 5 as a replacement for preschool, and it did help at the time.
Yeah.
Which allowed me to kind of refocus from those obsessions. And so that theme passed. And then when I was about 11, I started getting what's called somatic OCD, which is hyper awareness of every breath you're taking, every swallow you're doing, all your blinking. This, would debilitate me all throughout my teens, even my adulthood as well. I still struggle with this theme. I just do my best with the therapy I've been taught. And even going into relationships as well has been really hard. So I would have obsessions. What if I ruin their life, or I lead them on, or, or like all these horrible intrusive thoughts. And even friendships are hard. Like, what if they don't like me and they're just pretending that they like me, and all these thoughts on loop.
Can definitely relate to all the intrusive thoughts.
Yeah.
I won't go into too much detail because we're discussing OCD and not BPD, but it's kind of interesting how these conditions often have underlying themes.
Absolutely.
And and the way that it would come out for me as opposed to the way that it did for you is through self-sabotage. So I would stress about these things and I'd be like, oh, everyone hates me, like, or I don't know what I'm doing, or like whatever the case may be. But in an attempt to fix things, I suppose, before they've even broken.
Yeah, absolutely.
You in turn sabotage that and fuck shit up further.
Yeah. No, I understand that too. I've often felt that OCD is self-sabotaging because I feel like the intrusive thoughts I get sabotage my performances, or sometimes in the past relationships with people. I've gotten better with that on that front. But yeah, you can get OCD about anything. I mean, some people get OCD about what if I'm a serial killer, and they're not a serial killer, but the thought is so disturbing to them that it's just on loop and they feel they've got to work it out. So in that sense, the OCD would be all mental rituals of problem solving and working it out. You can't even tell sometimes if someone's got OCD, which is why I got misdiagnosed until I was 21.
I was going to ask you about that because it sounds like your OCD has almost evolved over the years, just through different stages, different types of it. Yeah. And it took so long for you to get a diagnosis.
Yeah. And a lot of that was because I didn't have classic OCD symptoms, in the sense that I wasn't doing those physical rituals. And a lot of it was all going on in my head. So therapists thought I had generalized anxiety, but that didn't quite resonate with me.
Yeah.
So it took me all the way till I was 21 to finally get that diagnosis. But I was really relieved when I did. I burst into tears. I was, with relief, not even sadness, because I'd always known that there was something further wrong with me.
It's so like, I'm not good with words today. It feels so good to finally have not just confirmation, but a name for it.
Yeah.
The thing that you've been struggling with like your entire life. And I had the same exact response when I got diagnosed with BPD. I guess unlike you, I didn't have any kind of semblance of even attempting to be diagnosed for something growing up. Like, because my parents I had a very different upbringing. So the fact that, my mother was undiagnosed BPD as well, and I didn't realize she had that until after she died. There were so many more other issues going on that none of the adults in my life did what they were supposed to do. And, actually be able to look after, much less recognize, like Andre's like behaving differently to most others and really, really struggling with his emotions. Like that's, like there were very telling signs.
Yeah, and to feel validated. Because for years I felt like I couldn't quite get through to the people I was seeing.
Yeah.
Like I was being misunderstood, or I wasn't wording it right.
Yes.
My symptoms.
Oh my
God.
God.
And so I would gaslight myself, and I'd be like, maybe I don't have it then. I've had some wonderful experiences with therapists, and also ones that didn't work out. I have even experienced a lot of physical pain due to my OCD, and that got really bad when I was in university. And I remember a therapist saying there's nothing wrong with you and your pain's not real. And
fuck that bitch.
I was so confused. I was like, maybe she's right, because that's the danger as well when you get misdiagnosed.
Because you want to trust the medical professional. Like that's their job. But the reality is some of them suck ass at their job, just like anyone else would. There's also definitely a level of even medical professionals being like misinformed or not being educated enough. Like the number of times that if you come to a GP with a problem, they'll like look it up.
Yeah, they do. And you're like, yeah.
Yeah. So even for those who have undergone a higher level of study to end up in these professions, like there are so many cases of misdiagnosis, especially in women. It's important to know and for people to know that you don't have to stick with the first therapist you get.
Oh, no.
The first psychologist.
I've been through probably like 15 from when I was little. But yeah, it took me a long time. And I actually had a lot of anger and kind of borderline symptoms throughout my teens. And I think looking back,
Yeah.
it could have been a lot of it in my case was also because I was misdiagnosed obsessive compulsive. And so I didn't know how to regulate my emotions.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to lie, I would tear up newspapers. Like I would get very, very upset and angry because I was like, what's wrong with me? You know? Why is nobody, well, they were listening. They were trying to help, but
It would be amplified, like especially at that age, like through your teen years. It's having like whichever kind of these conditions you have, the anger, the confusion, the frustration is going to be amplified. And so it might present as something else because you're still going through those changes, those hormonal changes
yeah.
that everybody else gets. But something, just as a side note, that I said to somebody recently is like, because I'm constantly coming up with different ways of trying to fucking explain my condition
Yeah.
because it is one of the lesser understood ones. A lot of people still confuse it with bipolar when they're very different things.
Yeah.
And I think one way that I described it to someone was like, in regards to those teenage years, you're going through those changes and you're like angry all the time and like just easily set off by stuff.
Yeah.
Having PPD is like that all the time, just for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty fucked. And it takes a lot of emotional regulation to be able to overcome that and just be a functioning human being who isn't snapping at everyone, who isn't assuming that like you're being attacked constantly and having to defend yourself and just, yeah, it's...
I understand that. Even to this day, when I get rejected, I get those feelings. You know, I feel like, that urge to be like, like, that cat on the keyboard gif.
Yeah.
Have you seen that? It's like, but I really try my best these days because I've learned some tools to deal with those big emotions.
Yeah.
I really try to stop myself, but it's hard.
it is.
It's
so
really
hard.
tough.
And it takes so much out of you too. I think a lot of people don't realize like when you have...
It is exhausting.
It's exhausting. Like it's already like, okay, existing is exhausting.
Yeah.
But when you've got a mental health condition,
Yeah.
society expects you to adapt and
Masking.
to mask yourself to fit into society. Like you have to be responsible for that rather than teaching society like other kinds of humans exist. People
Yeah.
with different brains to us who
Yeah.
function differently, who might struggle with some of the basic tasks that you find easy, but then excel at the shit that you find hard. So
That's
it's
it.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's really fucked up, but we may finally be entering that age where it is becoming more generally understood. Like neurodivergency
Yeah.
is being like, like in my friend group now, it's just neurodivergent people. pretty
Literally
much.
same, I
Like
think.
we find
Yeah.
each other like as a
We do.
kind of conglomerate. Like,
We do. Yeah.
we accept each other as we are.
Yeah.
If I'm a bit moody, because I'm prone to mood swings frequently, and I can't, like, I don't always have the energy to fucking manage it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
my friends know that I'm just spicy. Like, it's,
They get it.
yeah, they get who I am as a person. And whilst it's ideal to find your people who love and accept you as you are, it's just as important to continue working on yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Not for the sake of society, but for yourself. Like,
Yeah.
I've benefited the most from regulating my emotions because I was suffering hardcore and sabotaging everything from friendships to relationships. Like, I've figured out that fine line between, okay, I'm regulating for myself so that I can be a likable person and just really be myself without the things that hinder it, you know, the traits of BPD which sort of drag me down or present me in a different light. But at the same time, I'm not going to bother with people who aren't deserving. I'm not going to I'm not going to feel guilty about snapping at someone who deserved to be snapped at. And like, I'll make a bitch cry. Don't test me. I forgot where I started with this conversation.
Obviously, I don't expect everyone to understand or to, you know, look into the condition.
Just to be mindful of it.
Yeah.
Like, that's all it takes. Like, you don't need to know everything about someone's condition to, you know, be friends with them, to have a relationship with them, any of that, to interact with them.
Yep.
Just being educated enough to know that these conditions exist. And if you've been told, like, oh, I've got blah, blah, then you're like, oh, okay, cool. Then you can bear that in mind and be like, right, that sort of explains the way that they behave generally. And that's not to say that it should ever be used as an excuse. I think it's so difficult to, I don't know if you've had this where, I'm sure you probably have, navigating life where you're already trying to cope with your condition and you're trying to educate others on the fact that you have this condition, but using it as an excuse comes up.
Yeah.
Because, like, I've definitely been guilty of that. And
me too. Sorry, that was my OCD.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, I don't mean to do that. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
It's just...
my condition took over there.
Yeah. It's just a very long road to reach a point where you can go about life and be like, yeah, I have this, but not, as I said, use it as an excuse when shit happens.
Yeah, it is challenging.
I think it comes from that natural desire to want to explain yourself.
Yes.
And we've spent so long not being able to do that because we didn't know what the reason was.
Yeah, we've spent so long masking.
Yeah. And just straight up, like, I didn't know I had it for so long. So I just knew that I was behaving in ways that I didn't want to behave and I felt I had very little control over.
Yeah, it's that neurodivergent urge to over-explain.
Yeah. So, like, exactly. And so now that I have the answer, that's why I say it. Yeah. And I used to say it a lot at first. I like to think that I've chilled out more now with that. But, yeah. What are your thoughts?
Well, I just noticed that I've been sweating profusely because that's why I wear the gloves. I've got another condition. Love that for me. I'm very neurodivergent here. It's called hyperhidrosis. I sweat profusely in different areas of my body for no reason, ever since I was a baby. And I can even not be anxious in a certain situation, but my hands, feet will just be pouring anyway.
Even as a baby?
As a baby. And they were like, what's that?
What's coming out of your mother like a slip and slide? Like,
they were like, you're like a dolphin. But even going through school was really hard because I'd have to put towels under
down.
my hand, like as I was writing, like tests and stuff were a nightmare. And I lose a lot of water, so I get kidney stones as well.
Oh, shit.
So even right now, like these gloves are soaking. But and singing on stage is hard as well because even if, you know, I'm holding a microphone, the sweat drips down my arm.
Yeah.
So I wear gloves and that helps me get through a performance. But yeah, it's challenging out here, man. It's not easy.
Sure. No, I feel you. Like, in addition to the BPD, I got ADHD and anxiety. So
it's usually like a bit of a cocktail of things going on, right? Like
you're not suffering enough. One is too little.
That's it.
No, you need like 5. What are you talking about?
That's it. Gotta love it.
It's ridiculous. But I was going to segue into performances.
Yes.
Because we're both performers, right? And as a very talented, gifted,
thank you.
beautiful opera singer,
Thank you so much.
I was going to ask whether these conditions affect your performances.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, they do.
So we'll start with, all right, obviously, you have dived into the way that your hyperhidrosis affects, you know, putting on a show. How does the OCD come in for you?
It's really challenging because I get very hyper aware of my throat and my mouth. I get thoughts of what if I gag on stage or my throat closes up and everyone laughs at me, or it affects how I sing and I sound terrible and I embarrass myself in front of everyone. and I'll be isolated from society, and it just keeps going.
You'll be shunned. She's never allowed here again. Yeah.
Yeah, well, in the show that I'm doing, OC Diva, there's a piece in it where I live out that reality, like as, kind of like a terrible dream sort of situation. Not a dream, but I won't
nightmare.
spoil it. Yeah. As a nightmare, I guess. And I live out, everyone hates me. I never get work again. I run off the stage crying, and all because I gagged at someone's funeral as I was singing. That didn't actually happen, but these are the things that I have to write out as homework as well. I have to, as for OCD sufferers, you write out your worst fears as like a narrative.
Really?
It's like a horror narrative.
Like a short story.
A short story.
Of everything going wrong.
These days I kind of just try and be like, yeah, it might. Thank you so much for that wonderful thought.
You make light of it. You find humor in it. And I think you've done that really well a lot of the time with the...
Thank you.
It's this dark humor that we sort of...
The dark humor
share,
helps.
it does.
Yes.
It does
It's like an acceptance sort of tool.
You're like, cool story, bro. Needs more dragons.
Yeah, that's
Fucking-
it. That's it.
It's kind of funny thinking about it. I don't think I get like intrusive thoughts about performing so much, which is crazy because they're there the rest of the time. But rather, because my body can have a physical reaction to the intensity of my emotions, it'll actually happen on stage. Like when I first started out for years, I was so nervous. I'm still nervous when I perform.
Yeah.
I get like a sense of stage fright. But I do love performing. It's just that with how nervous I was for so long, my throat would actually dry up.
Yeah. Those
And-
somatic symptoms are so real.
Yeah, so my range becomes limited.
Yeah, my mouth dries up. I'm
Mouth
like,
dries
oh my
up
God,
so
where's the
hard.
saliva?
Yeah. Oh, it's so bad. And even drinking water doesn't help.
It doesn't help.
It's like not enough.
Yes.
And
I've noticed that lately myself with performing. I've just been like guzzling water and then my mouth's dry again within like a few seconds.
issues that would arise when I'd perform purely because I was so nervous and the anxiety was so strong.
Same. I often
Yeah.
wonder, like, why do I put myself through this?
Yeah.
Because I get so anxious. I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? Like, do I hate myself? What is going on here?
Are we masochists?
But then afterwards, you're like, yes. You know, like, you're like, oh, this is why I love performing. But beforehand, you're like a mess.
Yeah.
And this is apparently a universal experience for a lot of performers too.
For sure.
I went to a performance anxiety psychologist for a while who was really good, but I was doing it so tough at university with my performance anxiety that I was like, I need to see someone for performance
Yeah.
anxiety because like the adrenaline was just so high, and I was like, how do I sit with this? Like, how do I go and sing something classical?
Yeah.
You know, which is all about like purity of sound, beauty of the line when you're high on adrenaline. You know, I feel like you're high on drugs or something.
Yeah,
and it's like,
yeah.
I have to go out and, you know,
And
try.
be like cool and calm and collected and,
Yeah.
and really elegant and yeah. So you did mention on the discussion of performances, your show OC Diva.
Yes.
Want to tell us about that? What's going on with that? I did see you perform that the other week. It was great. It was a good time.
Thank you. I'm so glad. It's a one-woman show which features quite a bit of classical singing, but also some R&B and TikTok dancing because we didn't want it to be all really dark the whole time.
Yeah.
Because we were worried with a lot of mental health pieces. Sometimes you can feel kind of hit over the head with darkness.
Yeah.
And we wanted to have moments of light as well.
Yeah.
A story about my journey from childhood into adulthood with OCD and trying to find the right therapist. It even has a few breakup arias in there. Like the running joke is kind of like, I'm trying to find the one, but it's not romantically. It's trying to find
Yeah.
a therapist. Yeah, that's the show.
Love it. Loving that. How many shows have you got left to do for that?
For this year, 4. So 2 in the Blue Mountains and we're going up to Lismore as well.
Ooh.
We've done a bit of regional touring, Wagga Wagga and
Yeah.
Narrandera, which was really interesting because I'd never been to regional New South Wales. Definitely very different to other stuff I've done because it's not like pure classical. It's a bit of,
Yeah,
you know,
it's a bit
genre
of-
bending.
Yeah, I love that. Look,
Thank you.
I'm a genre bending artist.
Yes.
We love this.
Slay.
Where can people find tickets to go see your show?
Well, on my social media, I'm sharing the link to the tickets.
That Yasmin kid
That Yasmin Kid, yes.
on Insta.
That's the one. Yep. And if you want to come along for, you know, a bit of a sad time, but also a laugh, you know,
A bit of a sad time.
I'm not really selling this well.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you want to come along, I can promise that it might be a bit of a laugh at least. I mean, I get the audience to
was.
do a TikTok dance with me. And I'm trying not to be hard on myself as well because it's, you know,
It's
it's
important
an
to
hour.
not be hard on yourself. Like that's key
Yeah.
because we give ourselves so much shit for our conditions because we feel so heavily responsible for them. It's like, bitch, I didn't ask to be born like this. Like I never wanted this.
No.
I'm
no,
just
God,
expected to manage it for everyone else. And it's like, shit's fucked.
no. It is. It's hard out here.
It's hard out here for a
And-
neurodivergent bitch.
Yeah, all we can do is our best. I've benefited, I think, a lot from self-compassion practice as well in my therapy because I was so hard on myself for so many years.
Yeah.
I would be like, am I dumb for having this condition? Am I too weak? I would be so cruel to myself and bash myself up if things didn't work out. You
I
know,
still criticize myself for like past mistakes.
Yeah,
Things that
same.
for when I was undiagnosed.
Yeah.
It's like I didn't know any better. I had no tools at my disposal.
Yeah.
I had no support network. Like quite literally people were abusing me left and right. And yet I still criticize myself for
yeah,
how I acted
yeah,
because it was just like embarrassing or whatever, or it's like, I don't know, just mistakes made. But it's only for a second, like a split second. And I'm like, fucking whatever.
yeah,
You know,
Yeah.
I'm doing better now and I'm putting the effort in now. And
Yeah.
I'm proud of myself for that.
yeah.
So
Absolutely.
we
Yeah.
should all feel that way. I'd like to think that a positive that comes out of us having these conditions
Yeah.
is that desire for growth being stronger than the average person. A lot of people,
yeah.
a lot of neurotypicals, and I like to call them NPCs, they don't go anywhere. They're not being challenged.
That
right?
drive for us can be even greater because we've
Much greater.
suffered so much with our conditions.
Yeah.
And so we don't want that to be all for nothing.
Exactly.
I even say to myself, if I stopped now, then I feel like it would all be for nothing. Like, why did I suffer to that extent?
I'm gonna need you to tell me that now and then because
Yeah.
I still like I'm a boss bitch, but I still go through those like
Oh,
heavily doubtful phases. And I'm
Same,
just like
same,
I'm like, why am I doing any of this? And
same.
it's so hard to propel yourself forward sometimes. The way that you phrased it just then is really good.
Oh, thanks. Yeah,
Yeah.
you didn't come this far just to come this far.
Yeah,
well, but
just to
also
stop
quitting
now.
is okay as well. I want to make that, you know,
Depending on what it is, don't quit on life.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
You can recognize, all right, you know what, this isn't working. I'm going to try something else.
Yeah.
I've said it a few times now in various episodes this season, so I'm not going to go into detail or anything, but a big reason for having these doubts in Australia, I find, or at least for me, is the tall poppy syndrome. Because, you know, I have to be my own biggest fan, which I've learned to do.
Yeah.
I wasn't always.
Yeah.
But even now, like, yes, I have people supporting me and who love my music and everything, but there are still so many who are just watching from the sidelines, not contributing, not helping,
Yeah.
and just waiting to see if I become successful
Yeah.
in that regard. And it's like, well, you could help me get there, but you're not gonna. You're a little bitch. The last thing I'd like to cover before we wrap up
Yeah.
is we've collaborated on a song, haven't we?
We have. I'm so excited.
It's called Kingdom.
Yes. Yes.
How would you describe it genre-wise?
Honestly, it devours. Not gonna lie, it's like if that's a genre.
Yeah, new genre, destruction.
yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I think it's Would you say it's
It's
like
genre
film
bending.
music kind of? It's
It
giving
could
film
totally
music.
be used in a movie.
It
100%.
could.
It's
Yeah.
this big, like, dark trap rap with opera in it. Like,
Yes.
it definitely has that big movie sound, I think.
It does. I
Yeah.
could totally see it.
It's
in like in
theatrical
a
in a
James
way.
Bond or something. Like a woke James Bond.
A woke
you know?
James Bond. So I realized that I haven't released an original track in almost a year. My last was Villain, which was like the end of October.
It was so good.
Such a banger. So I figured, all right, like I have released covers this year and stuff, but my next original single is going to be Kingdom featuring Yasmin Arkansas.
Yes.
I'm thinking a Halloween release.
Yes. I'm so for
Give me a heart
that.
attack there. Yeah. Halloween release, because it'll be pretty much exactly a year since the last.
It's giving
Original
Halloween
track.
banger,
It
honestly.
is. It is. The darkness.
Yeah, it has that
The
sort of
drama.
spooky vibe. We could make a TikTok dance to it.
I'm sure we will. I am planning as well to work with Yasmin on creating a music video.
I'm so excited.
Yeah. I think that covers it. We've had a lovely discussion, informative, educational discussion
Well, thank
on
you.
OCD with Yasmin and her fun vibes. You should check out her
Thank you
TikTok
so
too.
much.
I'll be tagging her in all these clips.
Yes.
She's one of those TikTok dancers.
Yes. Yes.
As we've referenced that a couple times. That's why. It's because she does it like every day. And
I
that's,
literally do.
that's actually, I think, a good note to end on with the way that you embody positivity and happiness
Oh,
through your
thanks.
conditions is like
Thank you.
you love to dance it out.
Well, I think, going through the intrusive thoughts pretty much like most days, I feel that if I don't get out into the sunshine and do a dance, then I'm not using a tool. It's because it's a pretty powerful tool. Like I can be crying. I can be in such a state with my mental illness, and then think, oh, maybe I should just I can try and pop on the TikTok gear, and then suddenly cured of not cured, sadly,
Yeah.
but it changes up my mood. Like I definitely always feel better after going outside and doing a dance, and I always know that I will feel better, which is why I remember
It's a great incentive.
a few times being completely,
Distraught.
in inconsolable tears, then I've just thought to myself, well, it's TikTok dancing time. Like it's TikTok dancing time.
What a vibe.
Thank you
Yasmin's a
so
vibe.
much. Oh, thank you so much. So are you.
I know. I am. Though I've been struggling today, bitch. I could say I don't know why, but I honestly think it's past week has taken it out
Yeah,
of me.
the old food poisoning would do
Yeah.
that, I think.
But she's thin, which is no, I'm kidding. I don't give a fuck about that. I had someone say that to me yesterday when I told him like, oh yeah, because that's how it was, and I was
Yeah.
like, I've had food poisoning for the past week. They're like looking snatched though.
You're looking snatched though.
Well, thanks for joining us.
No worries at all. Thank you for having me.
I love having you here.
Thank you
Great.
so much.
Brought you back a few times now. We did record that track, and
Yeah.
now we're here for the podcast. So
Yes. Yeah, no, I love the podcasts. It's honestly, it's just so iconic.
you heard it. I didn't know what to say again. I was like,
you're like, I agree.
yeah, literally. I was like, do I even need to say anything? It's just obvious. Well, thanks for watching. This has been Sabotage.
Oh, yeah, I didn't come in.
Let's
Sorry.
do that
Okay, wait.
again.
5, 6.
So
I was ready.
this has been Sabotage.
That's on
Slay.
period.
Slay. That's on T, bitch. Boots the house down. We can cut it now.
Step into my chamber, you failed the test. You've been found guilty, do you still feel blessed? The crime was cruel and your mouth bleeds drool. Cover up that envy just that you'd be looking like a fool. Deluded did I divide the truth and all that you said. Gets one call, but the line is dead. Exiled and denounced, had your chance to confess. But it's all his fault, your honor, put this case to rest.
Okay, are you fucking serious? You told him, and I quote, he will say anything to get into your pants. Are you really gonna deny that? Is that why that message exists?
I'm not a fallen angel, maestro. Didn't win a war for a palace in the clouds. Losing left me with a fucking